Jason adjusted his tie, glancing at the clock mounted on the wall of his sleek, modern office. It was already evening, and this was the last interview of the day. The weight of exhaustion sat heavily on his shoulders, but relief was within reach. His company, a rapidly expanding marketing firm, had been searching for a senior strategist, and after an entire day of back-to-back meetings, he was ready to wrap things up. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant poked her head in, offering a polite smile. "Sir, the last candidate is here." Jason nodded absent-mindedly, flipping through the resume in his hands. His eyes skimmed over the text without registering the name. At this point, they all blurred together. "Send them in," he instructed, closing the folder with a quiet sigh. The door swung open, and for a moment Jason's world stilled. The rhythmic tapping of his fingers against the desk halted mid-motion. His breath caught in his throat, just for a second, before years of self-control snapped into place like a shield. Emily. His ex-wife stood in the doorway, frozen as if struck by lightning. 3 years had passed, yet she looked almost the same, elegant, poised, and effortlessly put together. She wore a fitted black blazer, her hair styled into a sleek bun, her makeup flawless. But the moment her eyes locked onto his, color drained from her face. The folder in her hands trembled slightly, betraying her shock. Jason watched her expression shift, first surprise, then disbelief, and finally unmistakable panic. He allowed her that moment to process the reality of the situation before he broke the silence. "Miss Carter," he greeted smoothly, as if she were nothing more than another candidate. He gestured toward the chair opposite his desk. "Please have a seat." Emily hesitated. For the first time in her life, she looked uncertain, thrown off balance. But after a moment, she sat, gripping the edges of her folder like it was the only thing keeping her grounded. I didn't know you worked here," she finally said, her voice unsteady. Jason leaned back in his chair, tilting his head slightly as he studied her. A slow, knowing smirk tugged at his lips. "Work here," he echoed, amusement lacing his tone. "I own this company, Emily." Her eyes widened, and he saw her throat bob as she swallowed hard. He could practically see the thoughts racing through her mind. The last time they were together, he had been nothing more than a struggling entrepreneur, drowning in debt, clinging desperately to a dream that seemed just out of reach. Meanwhile, she had wanted more. Stability, luxury, the kind of security he couldn't offer at the time. That was why she had betrayed him. That was why she had chosen someone else. Jason flipped through her resume with deliberate slowness, feigning interest. "This is unexpected." Emily said nothing. She simply sat there, clearly shaken. He let her stew in the discomfort for a little longer before continuing. "You have experience," he said, tapping his fingers against the desk. "Let's talk about that. Why did you leave your last position?" Emily straightened her posture, clearly trying to regain her composure. "Company downsizing," she answered. Jason arched an eyebrow, catching the slight tremor in her voice. "Downsizing," he repeated, the word rolling off his tongue with unmistakable skepticism. Her fingers clenched around the folder, her nails pressing into the thick paper. She knew. She knew that he knew. He must have kept tabs on her, just as she had secretly kept tabs on him. After their divorce, Emily had lost everything. The man she had left Jason for, Mark, had seemed like the perfect choice back then. He was wealthy, powerful, everything Jason wasn't at the time. But once the thrill of the affair faded and their relationship became real, Emily saw the truth. Mark was controlling, manipulative, and worst of all, unfaithful. By the time she realized her mistake, it was too late. Jason had moved on, and she had been left to pick up the pieces of a life that had fallen apart. And now, sitting across from him, she could see the stark contrast between their fates. Jason had risen. She had fallen. She opened her mouth, perhaps to explain, perhaps to plead. But Jason wasn't interested in revisiting the past. "This isn't personal," he cut her off smoothly. His voice was calm but firm. This is business. And in business, trust is everything. Emily inhaled sharply, her gaze flickering with unspoken regret. She understood exactly what he meant. She had broken his trust once, and now it was costing her an opportunity she desperately needed. Jason stood, buttoning his suit jacket in a final unspoken declaration that the meeting was over. "I appreciate your time," he said, his tone polite yet distant. "Good luck with your job search." Emily hesitated, as if searching for the right words. But in the end she found none. Silently she rose, gripping her folder tighter as she turned toward the door. Jason watched as she walked away, feeling nothing. No anger. No bitterness. Just closure. 3 years ago, she had walked away from him, believing she had won. Today he was the one walking away, knowing he had.